Tonight, you go big or you go home. That's my attitude about a great many things, especially in trucking. Got a lot to cover tonight, so welcome aboard. Tonight, the show that will help bring trucking back to its former glory. The networks sell illusions. We deliver reality. We do it one show at a time. So let's get started, shall we? And we're still learning the art and still having problems. There we go. Greetings, truck lovers and truth seekers. Glad you could join us tonight. You're listening to the golden voice of broadcast excellence in training. I'll gladly admit that. There's a lot of things I'm trying to work out here. Single-handedly promoting common sense, even though some say I have none. Broadcasting live to you from the Truckin City Mobile Command Center. Collaborative think tank for advanced trucking journalism, powered by truth, grit, and a whole lot of experience. Common sense and trucking, that's something you're not going to get anywhere else. During the show tonight, I'm going to be talking about quite a few different things. So you're welcome to call in 860-785-3547 if you want to be on the show. If you want to voice your opinion, sound off, be part of the solutions, I welcome it. If you want to give me some ideas on how to better do the show, make it a more lively show, I welcome the critique. Go ahead and email the show. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. Meantime, tonight I want to cover something that I think is really seriously glossed over and a lot of people don't take seriously. And that is exactly what is the purpose of what you're doing with social media or your online presence. What's the purpose? What are you doing? Are you building a future or are you just posting because you can? I would a question that I thought really would hit right between the eyes of people that are out there in social media, especially here on YouTube. And it's just, what are you doing? Are you building a future or are you just trying to be seen? Get your moment of fame. It's easy to jump online and say, easy to bang out or brag about something you've done or complain about everything under the sun. And then hit post and watch it go viral. It's real easy to do that. But what you may not realize is that every keystroke and every sentence of everything that you do off the cuff, it's either going to lay a foundation for something you can stand on tomorrow, or it's building a wall that's going to keep you buried when it falls. Really, I want to break down a typical myth. I see a lot of people out there posting about stuff, making a lot of claims and making a lot of statements that, honestly, when I see it, I have to ask, I mean, what is it doing for you? What is it doing for our industry? What good is it serving? You know, what you're doing right now could change in 2 seconds. And there are a lot of people before me that really haven't really thought that through. So, I mean, too many of us out here, we're building moments that, you know, like what I'm doing right now. I'm reaching out and trying to build a community of people that all share the same vision. Every time you post, every time you do something, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok, whatever, you got to think about the end result. And I think a lot of people miss that nowadays. I like to think of what I'm doing as building a brand. I'm building something that will outlast me long after I stop this, whether it's because of good reasons or bad. I want people to look back on what I'm doing and learn, or at least be able to pull something out of it that serves you, that benefits you. Okay, I'm not the funniest guy. I'm not the average George Clooney. But one thing I am is passionate. I'm passionate about a profession I've been involved in for almost 15 years. And I have a mindset. If I can't directly affect that by the very physical thing I do every day, I'm going to positively affect it by helping you guys realize there's more to trucking than just holding the steering wheel. My script sets on my steering wheel while I'm conducting the show. But my mind is on the industry when I'm holding that wheel. My mind is on exactly how I represent what I do every day. The amount of times I look at content that I see where that doesn't exist really troubles me. Now, I'm never going to criticize any one particular brand, content creator, or person out there. But if you're watching this show and you happen to stumble across this very program or any of the videos that I create, I want you to realize that every time I do this with the thought in the back of my mind that everything I do, I want to have outlast me. I want it to profoundly affect everybody in a good way. I want everyone to know that everything I do is designed to help you. And I want people to hear that. I want them to key in on that. And I want them to know I've got your back. Frontlines is a place where you, as a trucker, can come and realize you have a place to sound off. If you're in logistics, you can actually contribute to solving problems. Welcome to Fake Truckin'. I'm glad you're in the house. Boom, back at you, my friend. Poet, the man from the north, bang, also with us. Griff, God bless you. Hey, Poet. Hey, Fate. Everybody's familiar. Guys, sit down, have a seat. We're going to talk about things tonight that probably you're not expecting. For example, one of the things I'm going to cover tonight we're going to crack open a freight market report that ought to have every one of you sitting up straight and paying attention. A market on the edge, according to Freightlines. I'm losing my spot here because I wrote certain talking points I wanted to get to. A market on the edge, decisions made in corner offices, and the real heroes of the highway caught in the middle. People like you and me. Who's pulling the strings? Who's cashing the checks? And most importantly, who's holding us, you and me, back from making trucking the powerhouse that it's meant to be? I'm going to pull apart an article out of FreightWaves. We're going to talk about that tonight. Get ready to dig deep into that one. I think you'll like that. We're also going to go straight to the front lines on a battle most media personalities won't even acknowledge is out there. A war on the trucker's paycheck. Overdrive has an article that they just dropped that wants you to believe the flood of foreign CDL drivers might not be bringing down the rates. But when you dig past the polished headlines and doublespeak, the real picture is clear. Small business owners like you and me, we're the ones feeling the squeeze. And you don't need to be see a government spreadsheet or be a genius to figure it out. Common sense, real world experience, and the true voices of trucking say otherwise. So stay tuned. We're about to expose the glaring issue that the editors of this article tossed right over the boat. Questions they're too afraid to raise? Well, I'm going to ask them. And we will, together, make trucking great again. So let's get started. Let's make this day happen. And let's hear from you in the audience. What do you think about the issues as they stand, about fake content creators? And I meant fake content. I mean, nobody is really putting the eye on purpose on their content. I can hands around a very small handful of people that I think really get the idea of putting out quality content and trying to help the industry grow. Everybody else, not so much. Comment below what you think of that, and anybody that stands out that you typically look to for good common sense advice. And from there, let's go to the front.
The Drive Act is BS. It's pandering.
I think trucking is a very good career.
The best thing you can possibly do is put forth a bill you know has no prayer in heck I've ever seen above. I don't like speed limiters.
Majority of the blame is the companies.
We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
And remember, folks, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Greetings to you guys from the collaborative think tank of advanced trucking journalism. We are going to the front lines with issues most of you will never hear in mainstream media. Welcome to the show that I will gladly say is the new era of trucking, where we fight for you and want to make trucking great again. 860-785-3547 is your chance to be on the show and talk about issues no one else will talk about. I had a couple of stories I wanted to talk about that had nothing to do with the way I opened the show, but I'm going to dive right into the first of what I think are glaringly obvious problems in this industry. And that's an article in Overdrive that was considered, by me at least, to be quite laughable. The article is titled "Labor Dumping and Trucking, Foreign CDL Drivers Hurting Rates." Our Overdrive's articles on the so-called labor dumping tries to dance on both sides of the street, acknowledging concerns about foreign CDL drivers while bending over backwards to dismiss the idea that cheap foreign labor is hammering down the American driver. The piece highlights major concerns raised by patriotic truckers with the American Truckers United about a flood of foreign CDL drivers accepting pennies on the dollar, pushing rates down, and with them, the American dream. Well, instead of siding with the common sense and hardworking small guys like you and me, the editor conveniently leans into government spin, blaming data reporting errors and bureaucratic confusion rather than acknowledging the clear impact of the open door driver policy that's existed for almost 9 years. And my take is on this that we're not blind. If rates are down, freight is soft, and the playing field feels rigged, you don't need an FMCSA spokesman to tell you what your eyes are seeing. When you flood the market with lower wage workers, it doesn't take a Harvard degree to know what happens next. Wages fall, businesses struggle, and the American opportunity shrinks. This Labor Economics 101 and its small fleet owners and one truck operators and dreamers who get caught in the crossfire. Instead of hiding behind data and bureaucratic mumbo jumbo, we ought to be standing up and demanding the trucking industry put us first. Protecting the future of small businesses is not just about fairness, it's about survival. For a long time now, I've watched, and I'm not reading points on this, this is me. I've watched as leaders profess that they know what the problem is, but just as quickly they dive off and make it look like we are misreading them and we're part of the problem. So let's bring into the conversation a panelist, and you guys comment below if you think I'm right and we need to see bigger, bolder, and braver action by those in leadership positions. Let's hear from you. If you want to dial the studio line, 860-785-3547, I want to hear from you. I want to see what you think. Thumper, what do you think? Do you think the leaders have missed the mark on this, or do you think a lot more needs to be said?
I think a lot more needs to be said, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give, they only, I've said this numerous times, but before I say that, your background music keeps playing in my headset. I don't know if it's the same on the show or not on YouTube.
Well, let me look. I thought it was turned out or down. Should be off, but
There
is it gone now?
Okay, yeah, it's
Okay.
gone now.
Okay.
But anyway, sorry about that. It was kind of distracting.
No. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. No, I meant to have it play full through for one, and then I shut it down when I did the again, broadcaster in training. What can I tell you?
It did the same thing at the very beginning of the show. The entire time you're talking, I could hear it on here, but I checked on YouTube, you couldn't hear it. So.
Oh, okay.
But.
Well, we live and
anyways,
learn. You know.
Yeah.
The show
right.
is the show, flaws and all.
Right. But no, I've said it multiple times. Mainstream media, it's just like the government. There's one thing going on over here, and there's another thing going on over here. So they're going to distract you over here to get what they want over here.
Right.
You know, it's just there's not enough truth out there, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of different opinions. And I mean, I opened the show with the concept that there's a lot of creators out there that like to stir things up. They like to come up and complain. And don't get me wrong, everybody has their God-given right to First Amendment. I will never say a negative thing about another creator putting out complaints and issues and, brag and all. No, I am not complaining. All I'm saying is I think more creators need to think things through and be more passionate about adding to the solutions and not adding to the misery.
Well, I'm not going to throw names out there, but we
No.
were actually literally just talking about this before the show came up.
Yeah.
Anybody can read a script. I mean, honestly, when it comes to trucking news and stuff like that, I don't listen to them because it's like they're reading a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I enjoy coming onto your show because I could value your opinion. I could value somebody else's opinion. We come in here and collaborate with each other, tell each other to F off or whatever. It's nice to come on here and actually hear what other people's opinion are and actually have a conversation. In a roundabout way, this is the old school horseshoe truck stop.
Yeah.
And that's why I like it so much is, we all have
and the nice thing is you guys have a host that actually takes time and does research. I actually take the time to print things out.
I got paper in here too. I can
right
make
here.
that sound.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I actually take the time to print things out and I highlight the necessary things. I read from a script. I won't lie. Okay. I do write down before I start my show talking points because there are important points during the show I want to hit on. I think more prep and more thinking ahead needs to be done by more people in this journalistic side of content creating because there's a lot of people out there that call themselves journalists. But as I watch those journalists, all they're doing is repeating the same thing someone else says. What I do is I look at everything analytically, critically, clinically. I see it and I say to myself, does that make sense to me? And if it don't, I'm going to pull it apart. And I'm going to say, okay, why doesn't that make sense? Why would the average person like me not believe that?
Right.
And by the time I get done with the script that I'm reading to you, I've already pulled all that apart. And that's what I'm doing. I'm critically thinking for myself as if I were in your shoes. And then I leave it completely, different than everybody else. And I ask you, comment, let me know. I provide you guys with the studio line and the ability to call in. If you don't believe what I'm talking about, I challenge you, call in our studio line, state your case. You may make better sense than I do, and I welcome that. But not a lot of media personalities can or will.
It goes to that whole thing I just said too. It's like the old school horseshoe at a truck stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I appreciate about it, because we all say each other's opinion. We all have the fighting chance to.
Hold on, I got an issue with my camera. Okay.
I just saw a red exclamation point. I'm like,
Yeah. I got to switch over cameras because apparently, I thought it only happened during the day, but apparently my cell phone camera is experiencing issues. So,
but
oh
anyway,
well.
no, yeah, we could all evaluate.
That's why we got standby.
Yeah, nah, you're a little pixelated, but we could deal with it.
Hey, it happens. Deal with it.
It might take a second for it to catch
anyway,
up. But no, yeah, we could all evaluate each other's opinion and everything else, and we could all fight for the reason why we think what we think, and at the end of the day, we have a good show and we move on with our day.
Yeah, that's all that's important. Let's bring on another guest we have, as well as yourself. Welcome to the show, Dollar. I appreciate you calling in or coming by.
How is everybody tonight?
Great. We're doing great. Got a caller on the line as well. So let's welcome the caller in. Can't see the screen there. Who's that calling in? Is that Scott?
Yellow.
Hi, Yellow. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, my friend. What's happening? How you doing?
I'm good, gentlemen.
We're great. We're great. You can hear them, right?
I can hear you.
Okay, he's saying so. Okay. Well, we'll do the best we can right now.
It's the normal break in and break out. Catch every word, piece it together like a juggle, like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. So what'd you think of the open there, Scott? Or yeah. What'd you think of my open? You got anything to add to it?
No. I thought it was good. I mean, I get that you do something a little different than some content creators and things like that. I mean, you view it in a perspective that's good and healthy, I think. But for all of us to come together is not that's never gonna happen.
Well, I agree. That's asking a lot. I mean, when I said my open, by the way, I think you misread me. Something about the labor dumping. That story in and of itself, I think really flies in the face of what I think leaders should be doing, and that's what I was referring to. Just so you know.
Fate quit busting his bubble. A guy can dream.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here. Believe me, I'm not here trying to toot my own horn. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm making mistakes. I got a phone overheating. I got audio that's questionable. Hey, look, I'm not perfect by any stretch, but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a reputation other people can learn from and build from, because I think I think there's personally way too many people out here that just are doing it just for the sake of being heard, and they're not thinking through things.
They don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
They don't have to.
Oh, well,
they
true.
Don't have to.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? I could not agree with Thumper any more than what he said about your channel and what it allows.
Right.
It allows different perspectives of thinking, and the reality is I might not agree with 100% of what Thumper says, and Thumper doesn't agree with 100% of what I say.
Mhm.
But like we commute, like we can talk about it. And I think that's the biggest issue that we face, not only in the trucking industry, but as a society at large.
Yeah.
Everybody is defensive and attack versus having a civil conversation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let me take a brief real quick second to acknowledge one of the commenters. First of all, Griff saying, "Oh, boss man, hey, great." The two don't go together, but thanks for the compliment. I know where you were going with that. The one I want to highlight is "Make Trucking Great Again." Says unionize, help trucking industry. Really? You know how many people have tried that? I mean, think about it. It would be great, but I don't think that's the end. But
we already had it, and we found out what it did to the industry.
Yeah, right. I mean,
they've had it years and years ago. They were called the Teamsters. They regulated everything. If you didn't play by their rules, they would run you off the road because they were the only ones that wanted to work.
well, yeah. I mean, literally, in a sense, yes, but figuratively, you know, I think there's just it goes part and parcel to the next story I'm going to cover. So bear with me on this statement I'm about to make. But there's way too many people out here to unionize and actually have it be meaningful. There's way too many of us. No one group of people, I think, can make that significant of a dent. Would you agree, Faye?
So, I was a union trucker for 13 years.
Right.
I think that is the worst thing for trucking.
And why is that?
And like, don't take this the wrong way. I am a small business owner because I want what I do to earn my income.
Right.
I don't want socialized trucking.
Right.
I don't want where we all make the same. Because as a business, I do things different than other people. I might drive a different truck because it's more fuel efficient. That puts more money in my pocket.
Well, diversity.
If we're all paid the same,
diversity in trucking, that's by nature the very thing that helps us be better. So I fully agree with what you're saying.
Well, there's so many things that go into that. Like, look at what Thumper does for a living.
You
know what I mean? What Thumper does is completely different than what I do. If I went into that world, do I deserve to get paid the same as Thumper with no experience?
Very true.
You know, a union is based on how many years.
Mainly seniority. Yeah.
Yeah, after 25 years, if trucking is a union, I'm going to be at that top scale at every trucking company I go to, even though Thumper, could run circles around. I would be lost trying to do what Thumper does.
As would I.
You don't think I'm lost all the time?
Well, it says it right in his name. It says lost if you piece it all together.
Oh, come on, Dollar. That was not cool. That was not cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, I kind of agree with what you're saying. I mean, there are different parts to the industry for reasons. I mean, there's so many things that need to be done. So in that, when you try bridging a larger piece, when you try putting individual pieces together, you wind up with missing pieces to the puzzle, and it really looks lousy. So unionizing sounds great at the surface, but I don't think that there's enough. It doesn't
sound great at the surface.
Well, no, at the surface it does.
Because unionizing sounds great at the surface.
No. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying, Faye. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying the actual concept or the actual practice of union. No, I'm not saying the concept is what I'm talking about. The concept to a lot of lesser educated people is what is so attractive. The idea that the masses in the industry can gather together and do the same thing appeals to many. And I'm not saying to make trucking great again. I'm not trying to criticize your education. No. All I'm simply saying is to those that don't understand how diverse this industry is and how difficult, putting cattle haulers in the same room with, local and regional, drivers versus over road versus reefer versus specialized versus, there's so many, everybody needs something different, but we're all working toward the same end goal, and it's to make an improvement in the overall industry. But the way to get there is so different for each and every one of us. So unionizing almost defeats that purpose. Go ahead, babe.
So I can't hear the other people. So if I'm interrupting people, I apologize. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I can't hear them.
No, sure.
You just made a comment about we're out here to try and better the industry, right?
Right.
Did I hear you correctly?
That was part of what I said. Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I come across like an a-hole. I am not out here to better the industry at all. I'm out here to better myself. I'm not out here to better the industry. I'm out here to do what's right by my business and by my family. The industry happens to be what I'm working in. I don't think Walmart is out there trying to make the general merchandise industry better. I think they're trying to make the most profit that they can.
I get what you're saying, and I fully understand what you're saying. But here's how I dissect that. Everybody's got a right to First Amendment. Your opinion is yours. My opinion is mine. But the reason I use the term better the industry is because by default, the more I can do, and this is just me as a trucker, not as a broadcaster, the more I can do to make someone else, maybe in where I pick up, where I fuel up my truck, where I deliver to, the people I work with, i.e. my carrier, my boss, whatever. The more I can do to add positive value, I'm going to do it. And at the end of the day, if that can be done and it not cost me, that is the frame of mind that I use when I make that statement to better the industry. I'm not looking to cost myself, you, or anybody else. I'm just looking to make a positive difference, if that clears out.
I fully agree with that. And I would not look at that as making the industry better. I would look at that as just being a good human being.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I get it. I
know it's semantics.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant when I said that. So, to your statement, I fully agree with what you said. I fully and 100% agree with it, because if you're more worried about everyone else before you're worried about yourself, you suffer. So to the degree of what you said, I agree 100%. Good point too, by the way. Good point.
I see that you, the resident libertarian, got kicked out of getting the access to StreamYard. So thanks for that. Well, I guess we all have a voice, though, right?
Who are you talking about?
Yeah,
no. You don't send me the links anymore. I gotta call into the show.
Oh, you didn't send him a link.
Well, no, because the reason is because the link.
Because I'm a libertarian. I get it.
No, Faye. The reason is because the link's the same. It hasn't changed. I'll send it to you again, but I'm using the same link show after show, so I don't have to do that. I thought you knew that. That's the only reason why. So that's my fault again. Broadcaster in training. So.
Right.
In fact, if you want, I'll fire one off to you, Fade. I'll do that right now.
I can hear the other guys. I learned a lot from the last live show I was in. Those other guys at Dollar Bill or something.
Yeah, well, he's on the screen right now. Let me pull up the link. I'm sorry. Fate, I thought you had the link. I'm sorry, man. I just,
I
because,
probably do.
yeah, well, I'm going to fire it off to you anyway.
No, I'm just, like I said, I'm not trying to. If other people are talking, you have to let me know because I can't hear them.
I know. Well, we're about to solve that because I just sent you the link. So if you want, go ahead and hang up, free up the studio line, and
Yep. Bye.
we'll continue the show and we'll bring him on as soon as he comes on. Anybody else want to call the show? Call us up 860-785-3547. My tongue is way too fast. So I mean, when it comes down to back on the story, how often you guys see freight rates flat out insulting compared to the cost of running your truck? I mean, how often that happens? I mean, there's a reason for that. I mean, and I think we're keying in on that. What do you think, Dollar?
In that sense, looking at the board, knowing the people that have access to the board and see it. Right now, there was a load going from Omaha, Nebraska to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 1,400 miles, paying $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
How is that good for anybody except for a company truck?
Well,
it
I
don't
think
help me
part
none.
of that is kind of almost keys into what Fate was talking about a minute ago, and that's take out of what he just said, the independent viewpoint, okay, but now insert the corporate viewpoint in what he said. When it comes down to it, corporations do not generally, and this is my opinion, if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, let me know. Corporations don't really think or not forward thinking when it comes to the industry. I think more to the point that you were talking about a minute ago, Dollar, they can't. Let's welcome Faith to the show. God bless you. Sorry you got in late on that one.
I believe that the bigger the company, the cheaper they can do it, because not every truck is running every day.
Yep. Make Truckin Great Again says carriers are more concerned about profit over safety. Drivers shouldn't have to drive tired to make a livable wage. Well, I kind of.
Can we go back to the other one first? The previous one he posted.
You're talking about the last one?
Yes, that one right there.
Stop being polite with mega carriers. Be outraged.
The problem is we can be outraged, but our opinion is so little it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes to the point.
They have the money to go lobby for things in their favor. Where you and us individuals here cannot. We don't have the money to go lobby for us.
Yep.
So how can we can be outraged, but how is not being polite to them going to help us?
That ain't. We got a caller on the line. I'm sure he's got an opinion. I want to get him in on this one. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the show. What say you, my friend?
What's up, L Boss Man?
Hey, nice Rush reference. I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've seen that comment there in the chat stuff.
I did. So. I highlighted it. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
You're welcome. But yeah, I've been in and out on this conversation and everything. But yeah, but when the dollar was going on about freight from going Omaha down to Florida for 1,400 miles for $1,200, it's about as bad as coming out of Florida.
Right.
Everything. I've already gone over that several times on several different shows over the past couple of weeks.
Well, let me ask you, Griff. Have you personally lost a lane, a customer, or a load to someone else willing to haul it cheaper? I.e., what you think of as, part of the problem in this discussion?
Sometimes, but I've been mostly working off the spot market. But now I'm in bottom grain haulers now. Yeah. Doing different things and everything. Now, but I got to work on my truck. But anyways, that's a whole other story. So I'm not going to go squirrel on you.
No.
Yeah, sometimes you do, but that's why you don't discuss with people your rates.
Yeah.
because they could attest to it stuff. But if you talk to them on a more personal level, and with where you're working at now, you could probably find out more about that. But if you tell somebody, oh yeah, we're doing it for this dollar, they can go and maybe do it for 25 cents less than you, and you could lose totally out on a good rate for say $3 a mile. All miles when you're doing it, they do it for $2.75.
Right.
You know.
All right. Well, before we move on in conversation, before I let you go, let me ask you one question. What do you see as a workable solution? What you got to offer?
Well, if you kind of go from looking at it on the spot market, if you can actually get the rates that the shipper's going to pay when they're going through the middleman,
right,
you can actually make more money.
Right.
But when the middleman sometimes keeps like 50% of it, you're not really making any money. You're losing money because they want to try to keep as much as they can so they can get this freight shipped.
Right. What you got to add to what you got to add to that one, Fate? You got something to add to it?
I do, but I want Griff to finish his thought.
Well, but it's not all the middlemen that do it, but there are several that do that though. So.
Okay.
I just want to state that back. Not all of them do it, but there are certain companies that have been doing it. They've been getting in trouble for it and everything. So.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just my opinion. If you're working off the spot market, but you get direct customers, and you don't don't discuss your rates with anybody. Something.
Well, you
should be golden.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's good advice for anybody, but it's still.
I always say I'm doing it lower than what I've ever done it for.
Well, in a lot of cases, most of us have to, but there's a point at which you got to call a stop to it. I mean, getting loads just to get somewhere, I see that, and I've had to do it, but to cut your nose off to spite your face, different story entirely. I mean, there has to be a lower end to that. There's got to be a point at which enough is enough. Would you not agree? I mean,
I totally agree, but the problem is you have other companies, not you guys, not Thumper, not me. There are other companies out here that are getting help when they shouldn't be, so they can do it for cheaper.
Yep.
Because you like free money, so would I. So if we're getting free money, we could do it all that cheap.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not meaning to get off subject, but I actually ran across a good incident stuff when I picked up my last load for heading home here, so I get my truck work on. But I picked up a load in Wyoming, but there was a gentleman there that could not read or speak English, but the person in charge there wouldn't let him because it would be a safety. But I don't know why I'm going on about that, but I'm just saying, with everything that's been going on in the news about that, I'm sorry about going in that general direction.
Well, no, the actual article itself was about labor dropping, and it was about foreign CDL holders. So, I mean, if what you're talking about relates, by all means, it's not a problem. I'm never going to criticize you on that.
In a way, it does, because she turned him away stuff, and he never got loaded or anything like that. Which not very many places I've been to have ever done that and everything stuff, in terms of you're trying to help them out get a load stuff, but they can't read or even understand you when you're talking to them. But anyways.
Yep. All right. Well, Griff, I appreciate your point of view, and certainly welcome all future. Certainly welcome to call back anytime.
I'll definitely try to stuff or anything, and I'm going to have a heck of a week.
Well, certainly keep in touch and keep us informed, and I wish you the best.
Well, just for quick, where I'm at now, so I actually enjoy stuff I'm trying to learn, but
that's good.
It's been a good experience, but just my poor old truck. I thought she can handle it, but she decided, like, F you, sort of deal.
I had that
All right,
once
we'll talk to you
myself.
guys
So
later.
God bless you. Keep it
All right.
keep
Yeah,
it safe.
You too. All right, be safe,
Keep it
guys.
rolling. God bless you.
All right.
Make Trucking Great Again says, until Congress changes the law about drivers being exempt from the labor law, will never change. That's what's holding us back. I mean, there's a lot of people, content creators especially, they're going, I mean, full tilt on this whole exemption. I mean, I'm nobody special. I put out a video myself talking about leadership letting us down and not doing the right thing. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think what he's saying makes sense.
It does, but if you actually sit there and think about it, you got people out there that work on commission.
Mhm.
So then, they probably bitch and moan about, well, it's not fair to us, blah, whatever. And then you got to sit there and think, okay, we're limited to 70 hours a week of drive time,
Mhm.
right?
All right.
But yet, somebody can go work at Hardware Hank or Menards or Walmart, and they could put in 100 hours,
Mhm.
and they're not limited on what they could do.
Mhm.
I'm a young guy here.
Oh, so let me before you chime in, Fate. Are you talking about the difference between a trucking job versus a non-trucking job?
Yeah, but
Oh,
like I said, they're eliminating us on how many hours. I know a dollar. I know. I want to say you, boss man, but I'm not 100% sure. I know Fate for sure. I kind of, with my line, I know there was times where you guys kind of remember when you would quit driving when you were tired. And then everything was all fine and dandy, and then they started pushing the 70 hour with the 8-2 or whatever split. I don't know how the logbook split
yeah,
works, but
yeah.
you guys
It
know
was
that stuff
8-2,
more
and
than I
now they
do
changed
because
it
I
to the
on the
3-7.
log.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you
Well,
want?
and I know the egg exempt part more than anything because that's what I run, and I never will fill a clock.
Right. Okay. What do you want to
You're
have, Fate?
muted.
Well, the guy working at Menards or Hardware Hank's, that's all safety. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm agreeing with the hours of service or anything like that. So
Mhm.
don't jump down my throat about that.
No, I'm not.
But it's a safety issue. And
Right.
and then when you talk about, there's nothing wrong with immigrant truck drivers. The
Oh, yes.
problem is the problem is that we have created it to the point like Griff was saying, where somebody that can't even read, write, speak, or understand the language is able to drive a truck. That I don't agree with at all.
Where I'm concerned, I agree with what you're saying. To me, it's totally just common sense. I mean, I will never hate on somebody. I will never hate on somebody because they don't speak our language or have a
Here's the thing.
different culture. I will never have. I know what
We
the
don't need
common
more
sense.
laws. The laws are
Thank you.
already written. We don't
Yeah, I
need
didn't
more
know.
laws. They
No, we
just
don't.
need to follow them.
Well,
And
and
I was gonna say.
that's the thing. They cram more laws down our throat, thinking that that's what the trend is.
Yeah. The problem is that the current laws on the books are either overlooked, overwritten, overruled, or exempted. So, I mean, there is a perfect structure already there. It's the problem is these people are either getting paid or they're being told to overlook the obvious things. And that's where the common sense factor comes in. Common sense says that the FCRs dictate that you need to read, write, and be able to adequately communicate in English. Yet, they overlook it.
Yet they get to sit and have a person that can translate it for them, so they don't have to do it in English.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's still a law. It's still on the books.
Right, you're right. So we can't really blame those that are using the exemption or whatever. And that's what a lot of people do. Content creators, left, right, and sideways, are dumping on this huge influx of blah, blah, blah. No, it's not them. They're doing what they're being told they can do. The problem
Yes.
is the people that are allowing it to happen. That's
And
where the labor dumping is.
That's where I have a problem. I don't have a problem as long as you can speak English and write it and do everything to be legal. You have just as much right as I do to be out here.
Yep. Yeah. Certainly welcome everybody's perspective into this. Good evening, everyone. Hope you have Millie. God bless you. Glad you joined the show tonight. Is he making 70 hours limited? Should be 50. Too many hours is drive. Now that's interesting because I don't know exactly what kind of experience Truckin has, but
That's 70 hours in 8 days, guys.
Yeah.
Let that
Or
sink in.
70 hours in 7 days.
Yeah, that's 10 hours a day with.
Well, either way, what benefit? And I'd like this fellow to comment and tell me what benefit would be had should be 50. That makes no sense. Why limit us even further?
Yeah, now you're just taking money away from us.
You know, well, no, it's not even the money. It's you're hamstringing us because as it stands, there's way too many regulations that prevent us from actually reaching our full potential. You know, you do something like that, and that's even worse. I mean, it's not money. I mean, money can be made despite, you know,
Not
I'm not
only
complaining,
that, but you're also killing the economy, cutting the trucks back on hours.
Mhm.
Because
that's
everything
an
on
end
this
result.
economy, everything moves on a truck at some point.
You're right. Everything does. Doesn't matter what,
Hell,
you know, what.
I'm working on Sunday.
Yep. Okay, let me ask you guys a question. Put it in the comments or call our studio line, 860-785-3547. If you had 60 seconds with one of the leaders, like the FMC administrator, FMCSA, what would you tell them about the real world effects of what was discussed in this article about labor and what we're talking about tonight? What would you tell them?
Are we allowed to fire them?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, what would you say? I'm leaving that open. I mean, because I'm interested because
the thing is it take longer than 60 seconds. Because just like we've said, your opinion is different than Thumper's. Thumper's is different than mine. Mine is different than
all four of us on this panel, and the very many that are watching, both now and in the replay, we're all going to have different opinions. For example, okay, my opinion is straight out to address this labor dumping issue and to better address the issue of limitations on our industry. The best solution is to enforce the laws that are already here. I could say that in 60 seconds and walk out feeling satisfied I said the right thing. Every one of us is probably going to have something different to add to that. So, Dumper, what about you? What do you think? 60 seconds. What would you say to make a dent in this conversation?
Go pass. I don't know.
I know what I would say.
Go ahead, Faye.
And this is coming from my athletic background, right?
Okay.
I played hockey, I played football, and I played baseball.
Right.
All three of those sports that I played, well, I also wrestled for a little bit. So all four of those sports I played had rules and regulations to compete. If you violated any of those rules or regulations, there was a penalty that was involved.
Right.
Just make the playing field level. Make the game fair, right? And then let the businesses build off of that. That way,
you think the penalties that...
Well,
I was going to say, do you think the penalties that exist right now are fair?
Well, just what we were just talking about. The law states that you need to be able to at least communicate in the language that you're that English. You need to be able to read the road signs. The fact that we have people out here that can't do that doesn't make this a level playing field. It just doesn't. You have
Well-
to make it a level playing field. And then as a business, it's your job, just like it's you're a team, to compete in that playing field. Sometimes you're going to win, other times you're going to lose. I don't see what the problem is. We all should follow the same rules and regulations, and the best truckers, the best companies are the ones
Right.
that are going to win. The ones that suck are going to fail. Bottom
Right.
line. And that's America. That is
You guys can-
capitalism at its greatest.
You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I got a notification my mic was unplugged. Make Trucking Great Again makes a point. He says, I'm a company driver hourly and overtime. So right there, that explains everything about the argument you made a minute ago. Then he goes on to say that he wants equal protection under labor laws, just like someone who works 9 to 5, hourly and overtime. Do you realize how hard that is? I mean, to pair together, you know, I really don't even know how to address that. I mean, if you're hourly, I could see it benefiting you. But if you're
what type of industry is he in? Is he in LTL, where
I
they're
don't know.
paying him
I would
for
assume-
10 hours?
Yeah, I would assume so. I don't know enough about this fellow other than his comment, but you know,
If he's running LTL, they give him so much allotted time to do their
Yeah.
route.
right?
And if they go over, it's on
Mhm.
them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, I can agree to disagree on that.
He's
$1.
OTR.
Yes.
He's OTR. Go ahead, Thumper.
Why are you driving OTR getting paid by the hour? Unless
Yeah, it
you're
doesn't
working
make
for
any
like
sense.
Walmart.
Probably is. I don't. You know, I don't.
Well,
I mean, to
Walmart's
me,
regional.
unless you're working at Walmart, it doesn't make any sense to go over the road. Just don't. That's just my opinion.
God, you just keep bringing up that video, don't you?
What video are you talking
Your
about?
your Walmart video that did so well.
I brought Walmart up. Walmart's a
Dude, I've done videos
Oh, no,
like
no, yeah,
about a
they're-
lot of things.
Walmart's a great.
Okay.
I've heard that. Before.
Okay,
Walmart's
okay,
A great
he-
company to
he's-
work
they'll pay you $1 million a year
Yeah.
or $100,000
Walmart has
a year.
retired. Walmart has retired more millionaire truck drivers than any other company.
Hmm.
Okay. 100. So, okay. He says, I want to be paid 168. I'd sit there and do the math. 24 times 7.
What does he say?
No company
I
is
can't
gonna-
read it.
Well, he says, I want to be paid for 168 hours a week. Essentially wants to be paid to do,
while he's in
everything.
his truck.
yeah, 60 cents a mile,
Why are you a truck
paid for
driver?
all work done. Yeah, paid for all work
You're
done.
not working when you're sleeping. And once again, go to Walmart. They pay you to sleep in the truck.
Honestly, Walmart's the only company that does that I know of, but I don't know of anybody else who does that. They actually do have fair compensation, and when you're talking about, you know, industry standard, they're the ones basically about trying their damnedest to set it.
Well,
Not that I agree with it. I mean,
there's
you know,
there's a few companies around North Dakota
Yeah.
where they pay a per diem. They pay you an X amount of dollars for being in the truck per day.
yeah. Well, he goes on to say he's responsible for the truck. Yeah, I get that. And you know what? Everybody,
Yeah.
even though you're responsible for the truck, you still have to rest. You still have to be safe. You know,
The thing about him being paid 60 cents a mile,
mhm,
I think he's complaining if he sits in a dock for 6 hours.
yeah.
His company doesn't
Well,
give him anything for
time
sitting
too.
in that
I'd
dock.
love to get paid to poop. Good one. Good one.
I got fire
But-
up my truck.
Is that you beeping?
Yeah.
I was looking around thinking it was me. I was like, wait a minute, I just put batteries in this thing.
I got a little engine that fires up back there and goes to keep my batteries
Oh,
charged.
lucky
Yeah,
you.
I'm not that lucky. Yeah.
That's
Hey,
nice.
it takes 1 year for you to get your money back.
Oh, and I know.
Yeah.
Next year I'm probably gonna get one installed
Eh.
on mine.
Making Trucking Great says yes. Is that yes that you sit the dock for 6 8 hours and don't get paid? Your company doesn't pay you.
I don't know what he's meaning by that.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because how that's the way he wants to word it is the way we're going to have to go about talking about it.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised a lot of drivers saying I shouldn't get paid $160. I'm responsible for the truck. I'm at work, pay me. Okay. You know, I get what you're saying, but here's the thing. And I've heard other drivers say this, and you know, I'm going to try to be as generic as I can with what I'm about to say. You may feel differently than I do, and that's totally your freedom to do so. But here's the way I look at it. You know, if what you're talking about on screen and what you're putting in these comments is truly what you want, there is a situation somewhere for you. I don't know what you do now. I don't know how you know, I would love to have a job where I get paid 24/7 to do whatever I want. And you know what? That's out there somewhere, somehow. I don't currently have that. I have other challenges and other goals where I can't do that. But I know full well why, when I signed the dotted line for the contract that I'm working, why I'm paid what I'm paid. And I totally accept that. Now, it might not be ideal for every single person out there, but that's what makes my situation unique to me. You know, if I could, I'd go back to my carrier and say, pay me, just like what you're saying on the screen. But I know as soon as I do that, he's going to hand me a slip of paper and say, have a good day. Because that carrier is not willing to honor those circumstances, especially when I'm on something else. Now, there may be somebody out there for you to do that. And there may be a situation that they can create that allows that to happen. But until that, we have to deal with what we've got. Now, how that comment relates to tonight's discussion is where I want to focus for just a moment. In my opinion, we have at play here a set of circumstances that, due to big corporations and due to leadership that is not fully vested in anything other than what benefits them, we have a situation where we have cheap labor being, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm at a loss, but people are being taken advantage of. And the end result is people like you and me, we're losing. So in my estimation, that Overdrive article missed the mark. We need to actually understand what's at play here, who's responsible, and we need to urge them to enforce the laws that are currently on the books. This business that happened in Oklahoma recently and Arkansas, it's just a glaring example of what happens when, as leadership, we're not interested in the safety of the industry. We're interested in upping the revenue chapter, because that's all both of those states did. They put laws into effect that at surface level looked good to us, but did nothing for the industry. We still have people going in without the ability to speak English. Okay, they're getting fined $1,000 or $500 or whatever the case is, but they're not being put out of service. Nothing's changing in Washington. Nothing's changing on the streets, and people are still in danger.
Did you actually read into that? I read or seen an article that they were talking about that the Arkansas giving fines out and them giving fines. It's not actually on their books.
They're not doing the necessary thing. Fines don't do a freaking thing. Fines do nothing, because the fines in actuality either A, never get paid, or B, if they do get paid, they get paid by somebody else who can't miss the money and don't care about it anyway. Fine me. I don't care. It ain't changing nothing. What needs to happen is the laws that were existent in 2016. Go watch my video. There was a law that was exempted out purposely by the Transsec in 2016 before Trump took office. That said, let them go. Because the FCR, as it still exists, says you need to read, write, and speak English. But someone wrote an exemption in, and ever since then, they've never enforced it. And that's why Arkansas went the way they did. And that's why Oklahoma went the way they, because they don't want to go against the federal government on this. That's my guess.
The other thing also is that every state has it written. Your
And that's
state
where
you
the
live
government, and that's where the federal government gets the hands off that they do, because they leave it up to the states. The states leave it up to the federals. The states leave it up to the feds leave it up to the states.
in.
Okay, so now we're sitting back here asking the question, well, whose freaking job is it? Common sense would tell you if the FMCSRs are part of the regulation the FMCSA pays attention to, and that all of us have to pay attention to, it's federal. Right? That's common sense.
To a point, because
Yep.
just like you, Thumper, and me,
Mhm.
as long as you stay in your state, you are governed by their state, by your state. The minute you cross your state line, that's when you run under federal regulations.
Yep.
They ask you in the little green book, they ask you to follow and obey all the state laws in every state.
Right.
But
Right.
you're actually governed by the FMCSA once you cross state lines.
Right. I don't know what he's saying. It doesn't exist, too. Not to cut you off, Dollar. I don't. What make trucking? I think there's a conversation going on between Griff and Make Trucking Great Again. I'm going to stand up for Griff. Yes, it does exist. And to what I said earlier, knowing what you're getting involved in is 90% of the battle. Okay. If you go into a situation knowing that a carrier is not going to pay you, but for just so many hours, that's on you. If you're willing to accept that, and that's all the industry offers, then you really don't have much choice. So, got to think about that too. I mean,
I do want to say something there. You
Go
know,
ahead.
he's looking at it being a company.
Yeah.
What about the owner operators? You're doing a lease purchase. You know, Thumper's doing a lease purchase. I own mine. Where does that help me? If you become a driver for me and I got to pay you that money, I'm going to lose my ass. I ain't going to be able to take care of that truck and fix it properly if I pay you that way. Because regardless of what you do, you're always responsible for your truck, even if it's sitting at a yard and you drive your personal vehicle away. You're still responsible for it.
Yep. I agree. You are, and I think there are a number of adjustments, and I'm not going to belabor the entire show because I am going to run late because I want to cover one more story, and I want to have one more conversation with y'all regarding the markets and regarding something that's really not very far off of what we're talking about right now. So, guys, stay with me for just a minute because I want to cover something we all need to talk about.
The Drive Act is BS.
And so are you. I don't want to talk to you right now. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that. Again, broadcaster in training. Yeah, I know, broadcaster in training. I'm just going to go on to the story. I was trying to bring that bumper up that I normally do, but hell with it. Freightwaves article, a market on the precipice. And again, I'm going to leave links to these stories down below. Delivers a sobering diagnosis to our freight economy, basically. It says, according to the article from them, the editor, they say it's teetering on the edge. Volume indicators like outbound tender volumes are sliding downward, signaling a slow bleed in demand. The tariff war on China now slapping, us in the head with that. It's reshaped the landscape. And there's many more other things that the article goes on to talk about. Look, here's my view of the article. You can read it if you'd like. The trucking industry isn't just suffering from bad luck or a market cycle. It's shackled by self-inflicted wounds and a failed leadership. I'm no stranger talking about that. Corporate carriers, propped up by cheap financing and clinging to outdated business models, are flooding an already saturated market, destroying rate integrity for everyone. Government policy with its overregulation, trade wars run amok, and a blind eye approach to the actual small business fella like you and me is kneecapping everything we do out here. And let's not overlook the obsession with growth at all costs. How many have seen that metaphor come into play? Here's what I think is holding us back, and it's similar to what was left in the comments by an earlier gentleman. A corporate first mindset, treating all of us like disposable parts rather than an actual integral part of the actual industry. Overexpansion without any wisdom or idea where it's going or where it's leading. If you're ignoring real market conditions in favor of chasing quarterly shareholders, you're not doing it right. And last but not least, government meddling. Everybody knows my thoughts there. If trucking wants to be great again, we must restore common sense to this industry. And it's based on capitalism, really, where you earn your business through service, not through flooding the market with underpaid freight and everything we talked about in the first segment. I'm holding in my hands a quote, okay? And here's one of the reasons why I don't put a lot of weight on Craig Fuller, as far as his article, like you and I talked about before off air. They're putting everything into, I think, the wrong side of the industry. A term in this right here on paper, warehouse on wheels, okay? Fuller said, given that logistics in an industry where time is normally of the essence, the request to Fuller was funny because it meant that end customers were looking for a warehouse on wheels or on tracks. They're talking both in terms of trucking and rails. It's because nobody wants to take possession of the inventory. There's an advantage to a warehouse on wheels because then you don't have to worry about it. Think about that. Pass the buck mentality. How much trouble that's gotten us into. What are your thoughts, guys? Bo?
That's
You want to chime in? Huh? I was going to say, Bo, you want to chime in? I mean, what do you think? I mean, warehouse on wheels, I mean, you can't really very well do that with your industry, Thumper, but that's a hell of a way to put it. I mean, come on, man. I mean, we're just looking to get by here.
Let's break it down and look at it this way. Okay, he gets to the plant and sits and waits. He's free gates. He's free storage.
Right?
You go somewhere and load. From the time you pick it up to the time you deliver it, what are you doing it with it in your trailer? You're storing it.
Right.
So technically, in a way, we're warehouses on wheels.
I mean, but what the article goes on and highlights is that it could get worse. Think about it.
The thing I want to know. Hold on, Thumper. Just a minute.
Yeah.
The question and answer that I would like. So, if we're going to be considered warehouses on wheels, are we going to get paid like the warehouses? Because whether it's my trailer, my truck it sits on, it's still causing me problems.
Right.
Because I can't get it off my trailer. So if I'm going to be a warehouse, I need to be doing something.
Good point. Sweatshop on wheels. Yeah, I'm actually starting. Funny you mentioned that. I'm starting to sweat myself because I've shut the engine off. But yeah, good point. I mean, that's not exactly very possible for you. I'm hearing Bo get vocal.
Yeah, he's got something to say apparently.
He's probably agreeing with me.
Probably.
Were you trying to chase a cow or what? Okay, anyways. No, yeah,
Griff's comments down there. Go ahead.
Stop.
Go ahead, Thumper. I'll be quiet now.
So, no, yeah, you're right, Dollar. We are storage for those guys because there is times where I've sat up to 8 to 10 hours waiting for the barn to empty out so I can unload. And now that Yankton has closed down, I mean, I'm not shy of it. I pull for American Food Group. They, they shut down one of their plants, so all their stuff, all of Yankton's stuff got divided between up to Long Prairie, where I normally haul, or Gibbon given, which is I've actually never been there, but
Yeah.
all of Yankton stuff got divided. So,
Yeah.
and then top it all off, Long Prairie takes the Canadian trucks, and Canadian trucks have priority over us.
Yep.
Like I don't understand how that's fair. I mean, generally when you call in, you say blah blah blah. I'm this company. This is my trailer number. This is how many head. This is where I picked up. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
And you get put on a waiting list, and they take you in as they get called in. But if a
Mhm.
Canadian truck calls in, oh God, they get priority over everybody.
Well, it's
And
just like the same. It's just like the same thing with me. I mean, if Fate were still here, he could recall a situation that he actually made a video on, because he's in reefer and he was making a delivery to a Walmart, and in his video he talked about how just because he was there at the right time where the offloader got a message just as the dock plate was being dropped on his load, he was told to give up the door to another driver because they had a higher priority, which I thought was rather weird. I mean, yeah, it's how
I
it's
have
how
seen
that's-
that. I have
Yep.
seen that.
Mhm. Yep.
The main reason that happens is because they're out of said product
Yep.
and they need it.
Well, in Fate's
Well,
in Fate's situation, let me briefly say he was delivering a Walmart load, and the reason he was forced to give up to the other driver was because that was a Walmart. That particular distribution facility had or maybe it was a customer, end customer, whatever, but they had a policy that Walmart drivers took precedent. So, and in that, I kind of understood that, but you know, that happens industry
so
wide though. It happens all the time.
So the only time I've ever been exempt on waiting is when I've had a load of realizers on, which I'm not going to get down the road with that. It's pretty much self-explanatory in the cattle world. Um, and actually, since the whole world already freaking knows around here, uh, Tuesday night I was in an accident. And I
Mhm.
went down in the ditch. I hit the guardrail cables. I got ran off the road, is what happened.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
hit the cables. Well, my counterbalance, which is the device for the people who aren't familiar with the cattle world, it's the ramp that allows the cows to go into the nose. Well, that actually broke. At the scene of the accident, I had downers, which is down cows. They were all laying down. It
Mm.
was not a pretty sight, but while I was waiting for the tow truck, some of them got up, and when I called the plant, I said, "Hey, I got ran off the road." Told them the situation. I need to get these cattle off. They're like, "Yes, as soon as you get going, call us. We're gonna make sure the dock is open for you." So I ended up pulling into the dock. Well, long story short, out of the 40-some head of cattle I had on, I only lost 2. So, or 4, sorry, 4. So
Mm.
I thought it was going to be a lot worse than what it was, but the thing is yes, there are priority loads on stuff like that. Yes, I understand that, but like the Canadian trucks, we drive just as far as those guys, and
Yep. Mm-hmm.
why they have priority over us, but
Yeah.
They run under different regulations.
so
They do. Still, I mean, they're just as much a part of the industry as we are. I mean,
yeah.
they get their priorities when they're in their territory, and we get ours, with us. So, things work backwards, and they do for all number of reasons. But let me ask you guys. And I mean, I'm trying to lean on the solution rather than harp on the problem. That's been a modus operandi for my channel since the first broadcast. So this question is no different. As an industry and as truckers, do you think it's time that we stop relying on Main Street and corporate media and start really relying on what we see and really our own story. I'm not tooting my own horn, but who we listen to and where we get our information is really key here. Because if you listen to the mainstream media and you listen to the corporate media and freight waves and all these, they paint a different picture than what's really going on here. I mean, yeah, they give you facts, but they also put their own spin. What do you think?
I believe they put a spin on it because they believe the American public doesn't need to know what's actually going on in the industry.
I mean, do you think there's an ulterior motive here? I mean, because honestly, I don't see where any of that article really helps me at all. We already know what the market looks like. We already know why. But the obvious thing they overlook is, why are we where we're at? No one's addressing the source of the problem. The source of the problem is the leaders years ago not putting in the laws, not enforcing the rules that were there that would have, if they were done right, a totally different report instead of what they put out. In other words, common sense says if they did things right to begin with, we'd be in a different place right now.
Well, first of all,
go ahead.
Look who you're talking about. You just used a key word in there that they don't have. Common sense.
Yeah.
Second of all,
I believe there is.
That as I go.
There's very little common sense, is what it is. There's very little.
There is.
And it takes one person higher up to stand up for something, to open up the other people's eyes, but they're all about this money. That's all. It's all.
I want to ask.
It's all.
I want to ask one question, and the reason I'm going to ask this question is because of an earlier comment left by Make Trucking Great Again. Let me ask you, how many small carriers do you think need to go under, or independents need to go under, before we recognize what he's saying is true? The system is rigged against. And do we necessarily have to go and agree with what he's saying? Is this statement he's making true?
In a roundabout way, is that not what I just said?
Well, and it's the reason
it's all about money.
Yeah. Yeah.
That goes back to the first time I ever come on here. You know, I've stated that they wanted a fair playing field, but yet at the end of the day, there's nothing fair in this industry for the owner operator.
Right.
The insurance is the biggest one that is not fair. Because if we'll take Thumper here. If he got a DUI, I could not go and hire him to put him in a truck to drive, even if he's a great driver, without paying an extraordinary amount of money to be in that, to have him in that truck.
That's a good thing I don't drink.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is that the only reason why insurance is, in your eyes, so unfair?
I also believe that
I think you're overlooking something. I really do.
I also believe that there's corporate greed involved in it.
Okay, let me give you a borrowed take, and I'm going to say this because I am not responsible for thinking this on my own. I am responsible for repeating information that I think came from a very learned source and a very smart individual. Someone I'm close to in the industry once made me aware of the fact that insurance is a game that's obviously not fairly played by all members of the industry. The reason I say this is because for the longest time now, there are a lot of people in the industry that use insurance as an advantage. And you're probably thinking, what the hell's he talking about? No, they do. Because you get somebody coming in from overseas, from our earlier conversation, that wants to run their own company, do their own thing. They can effectively figure out a loophole or a way to only have to insure less than half their fleet, or maybe even 10% of their fleet. And you know what? Nobody does anything about it. People like you and me, we're picking up the bill for that.
Well, it goes back to, self-insurance. I've checked into many companies.
Yep.
What it's going to cost me to insure my truck through them is more than what I pay now.
Yep.
So I didn't gain anything. And I do believe there's too many loopholes for too many reasons. Apparently, Junior likes that comment.
Yeah. So more to the other fellow's content or comment rather. Let me ask a good way to close out. What practical things can we as individuals, looking ahead to others that may watch this show and may pick up? I mean, what practical things can we do to push back against these priorities and these leaders that have led us to where we're at now? I mean, what do you think would be a good way to go? What have you guys got to offer? What do you think?
To me, that's a catch-22 question.
No, I mean, because, improvement and progress has to start somewhere. I've said for a long time now, change starts within.
It does. I look at a lot of things the way I've always looked at them, weird. But, everybody wants to claim. The biggest thing is knowing what you're getting into. That is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
If you want to have a family, I recommend not getting into the industry because once you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be out there on the road, slide into a snowdrift, and your wife calling you panicking, going, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
I realize your viewpoint, and I respect it. But honestly, I'm a family man. I've got 2 kids at home. I got 2 grown older kids. I don't regret coming into the decision. I enjoy being in the industry. I've been in transportation all my life, so I don't necessarily look at it the same way you do, but I understand why you think the way you do, and I have no choice but to respect you for that. So I wouldn't go so much as recommending to people that they stay away from it. But
with the way the markets are, the way different things are, that's the reason I recommend it. I come from a dad that was gone home when I went to bed and gone when I woke up.
I recommend research. Research. Every chance you get, you want to go into whatever you do, whether it's trucking, logistics, warehousing, management, bureaucracy, government, private sector work of any kind. Research, man. Don't just jump into that. The leading problem people have today, and I think the leading reason why we have so many people neck deep in this industry, i.e. foreigners, the problems we have, people that, untrained as it were, is because people just go in based on hearsay, no research. They go in blind, they don't know what they're doing, and before you know it, the industry is what it is. I'm going to close on a good comment left by one of our regulars. Lower taxes on what a trucker makes and you can live on. If I have to pay 30%, $250,000 I made last year, and I still have to keep the truck running with high shop rates, lower tax. Yeah. Lowering taxes is not the greatest, but it's a start. Because you know what? Taxes, alone with what you're saying, Griff, I don't think taxes is the boon. It's the problem. Because if you know what you're doing, there's another, you already know who I'm talking about, Griff. There's another one of the panelists that says the taxes were written for us. So you got to be careful with that. But I understand why you're saying that. But
they are, but they're not. I mean, honestly, in the Constitution.
Oh yeah. I won't dismiss what he's saying. Yeah.
In the Constitution, they're not allowed to tax us unless we're in a war.
But I don't think that's going to be the leading thing that gets us out of our problems.
No, I think it's not. But it'd be a start if they lowered it a little bit.
Yeah. But as quickly as they lower something, they can always raise it. So that's the danger and the caution that I always put behind that. So that's the reason why I don't lean on that. So I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't care what article you have. I don't care what position you take. There's always a way to work about a solution. And that's what this show is. I'm not just about getting up here blowing my mouth off about this article says that, this article says this editor means this. No, I'm actually about analyzing and looking at every single thing that I talk about and thinking, what is an actual solution that brings home a better result for the industry? How do we make trucking great again? How do we do it? We do it by uncovering what's wrong and offering the solutions. And tonight, what we've uncovered is a simple little issue. The freight market isn't just teetering, it's being pushed by the very people that have the power to fix things. Corporate greed, government interference, and a system that talks about freedom but rigs the game against the very people who actually keep this country running. If we want a future worth hauling and worth making, where we get better and we get more, we've got to wake up. We've got to wake up, we've got to speak up, and we've got to stand up to the very people that have, up to now, ignored us. It's time we actually wake up and take back this industry. We need to get things done. We need to get it done for us and not against us. I think the sooner we do that, and I think the sooner we take into consideration that we can take back this industry, the better off we'll be. What do you think? Got anything to add to that?
Honestly, I think you hit it right on the head on that one. I mean, you couldn't. You actually took kind of some of the stuff I was gonna say. We gotta avoid.
Guys, if you could,
we gotta.
Yeah, if you guys,
we gotta,
if you guys, let me finish one thing. If you guys found any value in tonight's broadcast, please do me a favor. Go down below, support the cause, become part of the United States of Trucking. We together can do everything possible to make a positive change and make trucking great again. So go down below, become a subscriber. We look forward to hearing more from you in future shows. Go ahead, Thumper.
So, I mean, honestly, yeah, you nailed it right on the head on that one. We need some mainstream media, and that's what your show brings. And it, like I said, it's the old school truck shop or truck stop horseshoe is what this is, and I love being part of it. And I appreciate everything you do, boss man. Bring all that other stuff. Kind of got a little bit of a quote for you guys tonight. The biggest adventure you could ever take is to live your life of your dreams. So if trucking is your dream, keep those wheels turning and work for it. You will achieve it eventually. So
yes,
yeah, I guess that's kind of what I got for tonight. God bless everybody, the firefighters, personnel. We're here to put on a show for you guys, and as Bo and I always say, we don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Well said, my friend. I appreciate every time you come on and contribute to the show. I appreciate you and the audience doing your part by coming back here every week and trusting us with what is an industry in chaos. We can make changes. We can make it better one day at a time. Let's do our part. Let's make trucking great again. I'll do it as much as I can if you'll continue to come back and be part of the end result. Remember, success is not final, but it's eventual. If you do the same thing over and over again with critical thought and forward thought, you'll get there eventually. Guys, until next time, remember, it's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. Till then, you guys keep between the lines, keep it real,